All right, now we're going to cover preparing your file for closing. Now, there's a number of important things that go on here related to your final underwriting check, also preparing stuff for your attorney, also exactly what you're going to be showing your capital investor, because a lot of this stuff is going to be happening simultaneously in terms of getting to closing, your borrower's docs coming in, you going over documents with the capital investor, especially at first. I mean, once you get more comfortable and you've been through a number of deals with them, then it gets very easy, very smooth, and they tend not to even look at the stuff you're sending them. But at first, you're going to want to make sure that all of these boxes are checked. And then finally, funding approval too. These are maybe not the most exciting parts of lending, but certainly super important when it comes to risk management. Okay, so let's talk about it. Now, we use an underwriting checklist when we go through. Terry, our portfolio manager, this is one of her important jobs in terms of checking all these boxes, literally checking boxes on a paper checklist as we get ready to go to closing and as the loan documents are coming into the file, both the paper file and the one that we use on Google Drive. You might want to use Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever it may be. Okay, so the stuff that's on our underwriting checklist, make sure your loan app is there and complete and signed. The exit strategy, have them document, sometimes maybe even on their own, maybe even via email, how they plan to exit the property. And there's certain reasons for this to come in a possible loan default scenario. You're going to want them to say, oh, I'm going to refi and hold it as a rental, maybe sell the property, whatever it may be. Make sure that that deposit came in and cleared, didn't get returned for any reason for money, a few $100 that you collect up front to start doing your due diligence and valuation, because that will affect the settlement statement as well. You want to make sure that you got that money. The valuation itself has come in and that you've reviewed it, been approved. A site visit, especially when you start out and you don't know your neighborhoods as well as you will later on, you want to put your eyeballs on that property, right? In addition, you want to meet everybody you're lending to. Again, down the road, once you've done 100 or 1,000 of these, you know what's going to go on. You can kind of predict the future. But when you're first starting out, take a look at the property, shake hands, and get to know the guy or gal that you're lending money to. Super important. Okay, title work, that will need to come in and be ready, especially to send the documents to your attorney to do loan docs. We also put survey with a question mark here. In many residential transactions, a survey is not required. And the title company, if whoever orders title work, it could be you, it could be the borrower, they're not going to automatically do a survey. They're going to only do it if you request it. And that's a good question for your loan document attorney on a given transaction if you think you might need it. In commercial deals, small commercial properties, you often will. Maybe if there's some kind of discrepancy about the property lines, stuff like that. So that's a good question as you're getting used to closing deals to run by your attorney. Whether or not you need a survey. Property insurance, obviously super important. We're going to get to one other aspect of that. Jason covered exactly what the insurance needs to be like in the underwriting section, but make sure that has come in and been paid. Credit reports in the file, their asset statement, again, especially the first time that you're lending to somebody, you don't need to get an asset statement over and over, but the first time you do, you're going to want to see where the cash is. Real estate contract needs to be in there. If it's a rental property or some kind of commercial, it would be leases. Scope of work, this is an important one, and clients always lag behind on this. You want to see the document showing exactly what they're going to be doing construction-wise to this property. It's a good idea to have it broken out into a few draws. Most commonly, we call it 4. It's probably the most common number. If you have a $60,000 construction budget, 15,000 times 4 would be 60, and in what order they're going to do it. And if you really want to be smart about it, have them write in time frames. This one will be done by this date, and this date, and this date, and have that in your file before closing. Mind you, that's a bunch of work to put that together, especially when your client is working with a contractor to get this documented. So it does happen that you're often nagging them to get this before closing. Just the way it goes. And then also the business entity docs. Most of your borrowers will be buying in an LLC, other type of business entity, maybe even a trust. So you need to have the right documents as they were covered in underwriting in the file, like the articles of organization or incorporation, the operating agreement, certificate of good standing. Those are the terms, the common terms in many states. And again, refer these questions to your attorney who's doing your loan documents as you're getting used to the process of what to collect. All right, so that's your underwriting checklist. We recommend that you have a paper one of these in an actual paper file as you're preparing for closing. If you have a very clean and awesome online system of doing that, that's a good idea too. Either way works. Cool. All right, so the stuff that will go over to your attorney. Now, you're gonna want to allow more time to get your first few deals done as your attorney is getting used to exactly how the documents are going and the flow of information and communication. Allow a few days. Later on, you're gonna wanna set the expectation, because these deals do move fast. You're gonna wanna set the expectation that's a 24-hour turnaround once you give this stuff to your attorney and those documents go out. You're going to give them to him today at noon, and then they're going out the door tomorrow at noon in time for closing. That's the expectation. Could even be shorter. I mean, sometimes we'll do same-day stuff. Hey, can you get this out by this afternoon? Oftentimes he can, because we have a very smooth system we've developed over the years. So the stuff that he will need: the title plus photo, the entity docs, and the loan info. We have a form that we use called the loan information for the attorney, which gives them all the necessary stuff for the note and the rest of the loan documents, like your terms, how long, interest rate, points, who the borrower is, who the guarantor is, all that important stuff too. So that gets relayed over to him, hopefully in a smooth fashion. If you send him the right stuff, he won't have any questions. He or she, the attorney, can just roll with the loan document process. Cool. And then a couple other quick things just before the funding goes out. Now, the way it goes is you'll be getting all of those documents over here as the loan process goes on. And the last few will come in right before closing typically. And then that stuff will go to the attorney. He or she prepares the loan documents and closing instructions, sends them out to the title company or the attorney, depending on the state in which you're doing business. And then funding approval is going to happen. The title company will send out a settlement statement. We still use the old HUD-1, which is a very common thing for investment real estate transactions. Again, talk to your attorney about this, but you don't want to use the new closing disclosure, things we're not even familiar with anymore, because it's all for consumer and primary residence deals. The TRID type documents is what they're referring to them now. It used to be RESPA, I think now it's TRID. None of that applies to what we do in the states in which we do business, of course. Ask your attorney about that. And then also an important part of that, you're going to approve the HUD, approve the settlement statement, the numbers on it, the right amount of cash is coming to close, all the numbers check out exactly how you have it planned. Sometimes we used to have a client back in the day who would routinely negotiate with the seller for a lower purchase price during our loan transaction. And it comes in at $200K, and by the time we get to closing, the purchase price is $180,000, and his cash to close is much less. So that's the kind of stuff that you need to check on. Just a quick check of that settlement statement, make sure it all matches up with what you had. And the insurance, an important box to check is that the insurance is paid outside of closing. POC is a very common term when it comes to closing real estate deals. POC. It is not being collected on the settlement statement, because it's very possible that check going from the title company to the insurance company or the broker or wherever it's supposed to go could get lost, not sent out at all, and then the property's not insured, right? Meaning you're not covered as a mortgagee. So that's no good. The insurance is paid outside of closing. What that means is your client, your borrower, will call up the insurance company and make a payment over the phone. So they send you the declaration page for the insurance and also a paid receipt. Super important. And these things should be included. Whoever's sending out your wires, however that money is going from your account to the title company, these should be checked off before that person who enters the wires or approves them in order for them to do so. Super important. Now, I know documenting the file, all this stuff is not the most exciting, like I said, but it's super important when it comes to running a smooth and profitable and low risk private lending company.